Let's be honest, we're swimming in a sea of data. I mean, every click, every purchase, every single social media post, it all adds to this massive tidal wave of information. But how much of that is actually useful? Well, today we're going to talk about how to find the real valuable signal that's hiding in all that noise. It's a huge paradox, isn't it? We've more data than at any point in history, but making sense of it feels harder than ever. Companies collect these mountains of information, hoping to get some clarity, but a lot of the time, they just end up with a bigger, more confusing mess. It turns out, just having more data doesn't automatically mean you'll make better decisions. You know, for most data analysts, the real problem isn't finding enough information. Oh no, it's that so much of the data they have is, well, dirty. It's full of mistakes and all sorts of problems that can just grind the whole process to a halt before it even gets started. So what exactly do we mean by dirty data? Well, to put it simply, it's any piece of information that's incomplete, just plain wrong, or has nothing to do with the problem you're trying to solve. Imagine trying to build a 1,000-piece puzzle, but half the pieces are from a different box, some are broken, and a bunch are just missing. You're just not going to get very far. And this dirty data pops up in all kinds of sneaky ways. You might have duplicate records, which could lead you to, say, email the same customer twice about the same thing. Or maybe you have outdated info, like an old address, and suddenly your packages are going to the wrong place. And even simple things, like one person writing United States and another writing USA, can totally throw off your numbers. Each little error is like a tiny crack in the foundation. Okay, so how do we deal with this tangled mess? How do we turn all that chaos into something clear and actually useful? Well, the solution is a really powerful structured discipline called quantitative data analysis. Think of it as the engine that turns messy numbers into a clear story. At its heart, quantitative analysis is all about digging into the numbers to find the what. What are the sales trends looking like? What new patterns are popping up? It uses statistics to find relationships and trends that would be pretty much invisible to the naked eye. Now, to get a full picture of the world, analysts really work with two main flavors of data. On one hand, you've got qualitative data. That's the world of concepts, opinions, and words. And on the other, you've got quantitative data, the hard numbers, the counts, the measurements. Both are super important, but they answer very different kinds of questions. Let's break that down a bit more. Qualitative data, stuff you get from interviews or open-ended comments, that helps us understand the why behind people's actions. But quantitative data, the numbers you get from surveys or sales reports, that gives us the what. It tells us exactly what happened and how many times it happened, painting a really clear picture. So this leads to a pretty big practical question. I mean, if you want to understand what an entire country thinks about something, you can't exactly go out and interview hundreds of millions of people one by one. So how in the world do researchers get reliable answers about these huge groups? The answer is a really clever technique called sampling. Instead of trying to talk to absolutely everyone, you carefully select a smaller, more manageable group that can accurately represent the entire population. It is just like tasting a spoonful of soup to see if the whole pot needs more salt, right? You don't have to drink the entire pot to figure it out. That one little spoonful, that's your sample, and if you've stirred the pot well, it tells you everything you need to know about the whole thing. And there are some really great reasons for doing this. I mean, obviously, it saves a ton of time and money, but here's the part that might surprise you. A really well-designed sample can sometimes be even more accurate than trying to survey everyone. Why? Because with a smaller group, there's just less room for human error to creep in. But, and this is a big but, not all samples are created equal. The gold standard is what we call probability sampling. That's where every single person in the larger group has an equal, random shot at being picked. This is huge because it means you can confidently generalize your findings to the whole population. With non-probability sampling, where it's not random, you kind of lose that power. All right, so you've got your data, you've cleaned it up, you've got a good sample, now what? Well, this isn't magic or guesswork. Analysts turn that raw data into a clear insight by following a very specific, repeatable process. And this is that roadmap, the entire journey, from having a vague question in your mind to making a real, concrete decision, can be broken down into these 6 key steps. So it all starts with step 1, ask. You've got to ask the right questions. Then you prepare the data, getting it all together. Step 3 is process, and that's where you do all that crucial cleaning we talked about. 4 is analyze, where the real treasure hunt for patterns begins.
5 is share. You've got to tell the story of what you found. And finally, number 6 is to act, to actually use those insights to make a difference. And you know what? That action often leads to a brand new question, and the whole cycle starts all over again.
And this isn't just some abstract idea. This six-step process is working behind the scenes all the time, shaping our world. It powers everything from major business decisions to public health strategies and even the recommendations you get on Netflix. It's what turns boring numbers on a spreadsheet into real action.
It's also really important to remember that data analysis isn't just one single skill. It's really the spot where 3 different worlds collide. You need math and stats, you need computer science to handle the data, and you need what's called domain knowledge. Basically, you have to understand the business or field you're working in. The real magic happens right there in the middle, where all 3 of those things overlap.
So, we'll leave you with a final thought. Now that you know about things like dirty data and sampling and this whole six-step process, you're equipped to be a much more critical thinker. The next time you see a headline with some shocking statistic, just pause for a second. Ask yourself, where did that data come from? How did they sample people? And what's the real story these numbers are trying to tell?